Hey everybody, it's Shadowstar and Crystal here for another Arrow review, episode 8 of season 2, The Scientist. And, well, with that being the subject matter, we'll save it for last because it's related to the cliffhanger. But, we'll start with something that picks up from last time. Let's talk about the Moira plot.
Yeah, Malcolm definitely wants her to tell Thea that she's his daughter.
Yeah, we get a bit of plot with Moira, residue from last time with, it does show that even though the jury allowed her, it doesn't mean that the rest of people will, especially since the jury wasn't even doing it of their own free will anyway.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so we do show some of the consequences, and like we said, Malcolm is back, continuing from last episode where we found out Thea's his daughter, but we do get a bit of a plot thread from Malcolm finding out that the League of Assassins is not quite happy with the undertaking.
Yeah, that was Moira's way of getting him to back off. She said, "No, I told the League, they're not happy."
Yeah, I like that, because again...
That was really clever of her.
Yeah, and it's a plot that will continue on. But yeah, it was a good little Moira plot. I'm glad it continued on from last time, and it played, it had it happen properly, rather than everyone being okay that Moira's out. Most people still aren't.
Mm.
But we'll move on to the other main plot, not the character, just the plot itself. We've had hints of Mirakuru through the flashbacks, but now it's in the present, full force.
Yeah.
We get introduced to just a random guy who has super strength, which is a first for the Arrowverse. The most unrealistic thing up until this point was an earthquake machine, but this is the first thing that's completely out of the... until now, Arrow had remained pretty much a grounded, realistic show.
Mm.
But this is the first thing that pushes that line.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Then again, it is considered a superhero show, so...
Well, at the time, it wasn't really, though. It wasn't until later stuff gets introduced. Well, funny enough, we'll get into that next episode. But... But yeah, continuing on with we have the Mirakuru plot and a blood plot, and it's all connected because we have Sebastian Blood, who's after blood. What a coincidence with the name. Seriously, why did they have... That's such an on-the-nose name. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind... I like the character. I like the plot. But why'd they have to call him Sebastian Blood?
Yeah.
But yeah, we get introduced to something... We're slowly getting hints of the main villain, but not really. Because all we know is that they're working for somebody, and Sebastian Blood's working for somebody, and he wants to build, and he's getting stuff to make more Mirakuru. But, we get introduced to Super Serum and all that. But since we're talking about that, let's talk about the flashbacks.
Yeah, we get the confirmation that that's the effect of Mirakuru, because when Slade gets it, he cries blood like everyone in the present did.
Yeah, but we also, for the flashbacks get emotional for about 3 seconds.
Yeah, first we get more of the love triangle when they're walking along, and Shadow asks who Sarah is. Oliver basically admits that he cheated on Laurel with Sarah, and that probably causes Shadow to start doubting her feelings for Oliver. And then we can see she's not really sure how she feels when Slade ends up admitting how he feels.
Well, it's probably a mixture of emotions, because in that moment he's also dying.
Yeah,
but
she doesn't know what to feel. We
do have the death of Slade, and it is an emotional scene for Oliver and Shadow, because you got to think what this means to Oliver. It's the first person he could probably trust on the island. But yeah, and it was an emotional scene for about 3 seconds, then Ivo and his men come in. But that's pretty much our flashback cliffhanger. But, I mean, speaking of the Mirakuru, we do get a bit of a side plot with Roy. We get him once again with Thea's there, but Sin is back again. And yeah, they're investigating the plot as well, because she's got somebody who seems to be... He was killed by it, or...
Yeah, her friend went missing, they try to find him, and Roy actually finds the body and takes a photo, and he's crying blood. We know what that means.
Yeah.
They don't, but
And we have, there's also the bit when, and when they're looking for it, we see one of Sebastian's blood men looking for him, or investigating.
yeah,
Roy
yeah,
and
he
all
was
that.
at the house and saying, "Oh, these people are looking for this guy."
Yeah, but it was a nice plot, and it's the first time, we've had the Roy and Vigilante dynamic, but it was the first time he actually made use of the thing where he said, "Leave this in the alleyway."
No, I'm sure he's done it before.
No, he's met up with him, but he's never actually left that note because he was supposed to just leave the thing in the arrowhead in the alleyway, which is the first time that's happened.
Okay.
But we've talked about the main plot, and this episode kind of leaves open-ended, but we'll talk about that in a second. Let's talk about, we get introduced to a new character. Let's start talking about that.
Yeah, he was great, although one thing that annoys me is that, well, doesn't really annoy me about this episode, but
There's some inconsistencies, it feels like.
I was gonna say they hint at a relationship with Felicity, and
I love that, though. It just makes me really annoyed at what happens later on.
exactly.
Barry and Felicity should have been together. A lot of people
Yeah,
say that.
they go together a lot better than the person he actually ends up with.
Yeah, or the person she ends up with.
Mm.
But yeah, we do. We get to meet Barry.
In fact, when Barry first came onto the show, first auditioned, they had him do a scene with Felicity to test out their dynamic.
Yeah.
And
cool.
and one of the people from the show said, if he can get along with Felicity, then great, he's our guy.
Well, there you go. But yeah, we do get introduced to Barry Allen from Central City, which obviously, if you're even vaguely familiar with DC Comics,
You'd know the name Barry Allen.
Yeah, it's obviously one of the biggest names in DC, probably right after Superman and Batman. So we don't have to toy around too much. You'd have to be living under a rock not to know who it is, and you'd probably figure it out if you've at least seen the next episode. You know who it is anyway. But yeah, we have Barry, and like we said, Barry just works so well with Felicity.
Yeah.
And it's just nice seeing Barry be smart, and he's really good to CSI stuff, and I love it.
Yeah. He
just
just changes so much. Like, I don't want to say for the worst, but
But like I said, I also love that. I mean, obviously they were planning a lot of things in advance, but like I said, I love things that are set up a long way in advance, and
yeah, the problem is there is some inconsistencies.
only small things though, nothing huge. We'll get into those later. But I do love the setup, Barry does mention what happened to his father, and, he mentions Captain Singh. We just get a lot of continuity
No,
nods.
he mentions Director Singh.
Well, we'll get to that, but still.
And the whole plot of he's not who he says he is because he's just an assistant.
It makes him sound more suspicious than he actually is.
But also, he's just an assistant doesn't work because
We know, we'll talk about that later too.
when we see Barry in an episode that takes place right after he gets back to Central City,
Well, okay, I'm
he's
going to talk
analysing
talk
a
about
thing.
that next time, because there's a huge inconsistency in the timeline of this. We're going to talk about the comparing of next episode and Barry's own episode, because there is some really bad timeline inconsistencies. Nothing huge, but it's a little misleading on how the timeline works. But we'll get to that later. For now, Barry's such an enjoyable character. It makes me annoyed at what happens later.
Yeah.
But, for now, I can't wait, can't you?
Gonna be great.
I can't wait. But it feels like, we're excited because we enjoy the characters, but also the episode itself, it's one of those episodes where it's huge because it sets up things, but it's not huge in the grand scale. Like, it's not a big, exciting, crazy episode, but it does set up a lot of things. We have Slade dying, we have a cliffhanger with Ivo finding him, we have super serum soldiers, and, we meet Barry. There's a lot of setup and build-up and stuff, and of course we have the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
The cliffhanger where Barry finds out who the vigilante is.
Yeah.
Which I do like that in that earlier scene where Barry is speculating on who the vigilante is.
Yeah, he says, oh, I bet he trained in a forest. I bet he has partners, one who has a background in computer science.
Yeah, it's just such a fun episode. It's just so good to see Barry. Oh man, we've been waiting for this. Like I said, season 2, this first half of season 2 has been so good. I can't think of any bad or boring episodes.
Yeah, it's been pretty good.
Compare it to the first half of season 1, where like you had 2 episodes that were devoted to like Huntress.
Ugh.
Exactly. God, season 2 is so much better, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Next episode. Next episode is episode 9, which is the mid-season finale, so that usually means something relatively big. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. There's quite a few big things.
That's all I can think of to say.
Yeah, I can't really think of any bad points of this episode, can you?
No. Oh, one more thing I gotta compliment is, as always, the costume people are great.
Yeah, I know. Roy was wearing a suit again.
Not just Felicity, who I always compliment, although her dress at the party was beautiful and all her other outfits were amazing, but also, Thea not only had a beautiful dress, but also her hair was done great.
Okay, maybe I don't understand hair, but her hair looks shorter.
It's because it was wavy.
Okay, whatever. I don't understand hair.
And there was that nice detail that both Thea and Roy were wearing red jackets.
Yeah, that's double foreshadowing, but we'll get to that soon. Oh, next season. But, yeah. And I do like the little things they sprinkle through that gets reused later. Like, I love the music. The music shows up a few times.
Yes, the Barry music.
The Barry music. That's just what it's called. But
It's when he talks sciencey stuff.
there wasn't. Oh, yeah. Well, that is actually the name of the music. Or I think it's just called The Scientist. That theme music.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but there was a lot of build up. There's a lot of exciting things happening. Barry's a nice character. It didn't feel like there was a ton of plots, which is good. Because and everything matters. And, the flashbacks are building to stuff. This episode is building... We're slowly getting towards the big threats of this season. We'll really get to it next time. But, what are you thinking?
6.5.
6? I'm going to give it a 7. I agree, though, I wasn't going to go too high. It's a really good episode, but I can't always make everything super huge.
Yeah. You gotta leave room for better ones.
Exactly. So, 7... Yes. 7.5 for me. I'll say 7.5.
Okay.
That's reasonable. I'm not going to go too low, but I'm not going to go too high. That's perfectly reasonable.
Yep.
So, what's the next episode called?
3 Ghosts.
Well, that makes sense, because the next episode, being a mid-season finale, is technically got some Christmas stuff in it.
Oh, I thought,
Yeah.
It would be visited by 3 ghosts.
Yeah, but enough about next time. You'll have to wait for that next time. So if you enjoyed this episode and enjoyed us talking about it...
Like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah, all that good stuff. And we will see you next time for the 9th episode of Arrow Season 2.